discussion. We also have some good insights from the crowdsourcing that we did through social media by posting the questions. There are some interesting insights that have come from there, which also we will share. So could be useful for the panel to think through those points as well. Now, the think tank format, specifically, as I said, it falls into the research vertical of MeGreen India. As you know, if you have gone through our website, and if you haven't, I will request that please go through our website, megreen.in. We are working for the cause of building sustainable work identities for individuals and organizations. And to that, all the work that we do is segmented into three primary verticals, three broad verticals, I would say. The first one is focused around helping individuals develop the kind of skills that they will require to build sustainable professional identities. The second vertical focuses on helping organizations transform and transition into the new world of work, or the 21st century world of work, as we call it. And the third vertical is the research vertical, which primarily focuses on our ability to be able to think ahead and seize the opportunities that come in the way of work and employment. That is where we use think tank as a format, besides other research methods. Now, why specifically this topic? At MeGreen, we've been working on career sustenance and loss of jobs. How do we get those people to get back and regain their professional identities? When this whole journey started for me, while I was working on a project on reskilling IT workers, because a lot of people were getting disrupted due to AI and automation coming into businesses, and that's where it started towards end of 2016. But it really took formal shape when I met Dr. Sujata in 2019, and ever since then till now, when we were looking at solutioning for disruptions like losing jobs and the necessity to reskill during the career. Little did we know at that time that whatever we are working on is going to become so much more important and so much more relevant for not many other people. I'm connecting it to the recent pandemic. In India, we had about 120 million people who lost jobs owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. If I take that number to the global, it's about 3 billion people who've lost jobs. United Nations has, given an official statement that almost 50%, and in fact 50% is what in their report it says, that of employed people across the globe are at the risk of their jobs given the economic conditions today. Now, in all this, I don't think any part of the world was prepared for such a massive collapse in the space of work and employment. And like they say that every problem comes with its solution, and it's only on us as to how much time we take to discover that. Probably that's what happened with us when we were trying to look at this situation. We had already done a research on gig economy and the opportunities there for people who were losing jobs on account of AI and automation disruption. And that's when one of our research reports on identity in gig economy was recognized by the Indian Council for Social Science Research. And having got encouraged through that, we put through another 2 research projects to study the whole aspect of layoffs and the whole, platform community, or the marketplace, talent marketplace, collaborative consumption of talent. We rolled out 2 projects on that through our volunteer research interns to study what really is happening there. And while these projects were ongoing, the pandemic struck in. So it so happened that our data got skewed because of what happened in April and May. So there are some interesting findings there. And now we thought that there is no better time to consolidate all of this and get the brightest minds together to probably, dissect all of this and come through and see if the gig economy really can be a solution to in this situation, in this context that we are struggling with. And it's not just India, it's, I think, the entire world that is struggling through this phase. So that's the background to why we particularly chose this topic. Now, what I will do is, I'm not going to spend too much time, but very quickly run through the key highlights of the content and the insights that we've got from the 3 prior research work that we've done. Just to be on the same page, gig economy is the term that we are going to be using, and as it is being commonly used, to refer to the whole concept of individuals working task by task with multiple companies, multiple employers at the same time while shaping their careers, instead of being permanently employed with one organization. It has been a growing trend for many years now, almost 5-6 years. It's really caught up big time. And the biggest contributor to this was the digital propagation that happened through these platforms, which are called, the gig platforms, like the Fiverr, the Freelancer, Truelancer, Upwork, just to name a few. These are all the talent platforms which are connecting free agents, free workers, freelance workers with employers directly through their online medium. Leading consulting firms across the globe had pointed to a lot of possibility of this shared economy growing in the years to come. And this is pre-pandemic data, when they said that this shared economy is likely to grow as up to almost up to $335 billion by 2025. McKinsey had almost estimated that 72 million full-time equivalent jobs are going to be generated as gig works across the globe. So there was a general consensus pre-pandemic that gig economy is here to stay, and there are many organizations and industries which are trying to transition to adopt this kind of an employment model, because it gives them all that kind of flexibility but of course they had their own concerns of how to adopt a new untested model in some of the areas. So both individuals and organizations had tasted some amount of pros, or I would say joys, as they call it, things that they were enjoying because of being a freelancer as individuals, and organizations, the advantages that they were getting as adopting freelance workforce within their projects and assignments. At the same time, both also had their own concerns. So there was a mix, finding here, where we felt that though there is attraction towards moving to gig work and gig economy, there is also issues and concerns that needs to be addressed before we fully adopt it. And then through our research interns, we did a secondary research of all the gig platforms. And there is a portal called financeonline.com, which had done a very detailed study of 106 such platforms and given out a ranking. So we picked up the top 20 of the 106 and looked at their websites and official websites and studied what was really coming through there. And there were various kinds of information that we could generate out of it, but what we really focused on is if people had to become freelancers, what is it that is being recognized by the employers? So we tried to pull that out from the customer testimonials that were presented to the freelancers who were on the website after having consumed freelance talent from that platform. So in this box, what you see is, keywords that we've extracted out of those customer testimonials, where obviously it's a mixed bag of course, the core skill, the fact that the main skill that they have used, expertise in that skill to deliver the work on time and do quality delivery. The second set of competencies are around their ability, a functional understanding, like, the ability to price right, the ability to understand the customer's business, comprehend, communicate effectively to gather the work understanding. and of course the ability to promote their business if they've been engaged in such assignments. But a majority of what has been appreciated by the customers is the softer skills, which is around their uh, self-direction, self-management, creativity, the ability to respond, uh, ethically behave, trustworthiness, dependability, accessibility at the time that they desire. So these are kind of collaboration, teamwork. So most of the softer aspects and humanistic skills are the ones which have been appreciated most. And in one of our prior research, we had also collated the 21st century learning model, where we said that it is primarily focusing on, it completely resonated with that model, which focuses on three aspects of 21st century learning, which is, of course, mastering the core foundational knowledge, the technical expertise of what you are using to deliver your work. The second around your ability to think, the meta knowledge of how things happen, creativity, innovation, and critical thinking, etc. And the third around the humanistic knowledge of life and job skills, emotional awareness, and cultural competence. And if you try and map it with what we found through the customer testimonials, it was kind of mapping. And the one inference that we're still thinking to draw from here is to see whether, does it mean that in a free agent world, the 21st century skills are the ones that is being sought after? What we were looking at as 21st century skills for employees working in companies is also going to be the kind of skills that is required for sustenance of career as a free agent. The other study that we did on layoffs was from 17 official news websites of India, and this is a purely India data. The layoffs that happened between April 19 to May 2020. It's about a little over 1 year. And we were expecting that these would be due to automation and AI. But as I said, this data got skewed because of what happened in April and May. And interestingly, a total of 54,000 people, and only from these websites. So this is, you can consider this as a sample of the overall that has happened. Were laid off permanently by their employers, and this was declared officially by the employer, and that's the only data that we've looked at here. Initially, we thought this could be because of the pandemic and the low-skill jobs there, where people lost jobs very quickly in large numbers, so we thought it could be skewed because of that. But interestingly, 78% of these 54,000 were knowledge workers. They were not those low-skill jobs like delivery boys and car cab drivers, etc. They were much beyond that. When we looked at the cited reason by the company of why they did the layoff, it had 5 different categories. The topmost was the COVID-19, followed by economic crisis as 6%, cost cutting as 12%, buyouts and mergers, and restructuring as the other categories that we had. So we tried to club this and looked at the traditional, which is your cost cutting, buyout mergers, and restructuring, which is typical reasons which companies generally use when they are looking at decisions around downsizing and cutting, resources within their organizations. That contributed to only 25%. So this is where I said that, we did know little that whatever we were working towards is going to solve the purpose for a lot more. It almost become 3 times. This 25% would have been the situation earlier if the pandemic had not struck. But with the pandemic, what we were working towards has become relevant almost 3 or 4 times than what it was earlier. And where were these people working? Largely belonging to the transport business, food delivery, airline, automobile are some of the biggest industries that have got impacted. Of course, it has cut the line all in everywhere. This is an extract from what people shared in the last 2 or 3 days. It's hardly 2 or 3 days that we started looking for crowdsourcing inputs from everyone when we did the social media promotion for this. These are words that have got extracted from what people had to say about this topic, and it will be interesting for us to keep these in mind when we get into those questions. Of course, they go with the same dimensions around organizations. It's talking about concerns with respect to data privacy, concerns with respect to balancing freelancers and permanent employees, and role-specific challenges of releasing that particular job as a freelance job or an independent worker. At the individual perspective, the issues were around people not getting fixed incomes because of this, and the stress and emotional issues when people don't have projects in hand. The whole concept of work-life balance is something that a lot of people have highlighted, which also resonates with our earlier findings through those joys and challenges that I mentioned. But what we really liked is the fact that people are looking to this, as an opportunity, because it gives a lot of freedom to individuals. It gives a lot more learning by working on different assignments with different companies. The learning agility really goes up. You get to learn a lot more than doing with one company. But what people are looking at is, can this move into more number of roles than the ones that is currently being adopted? How can you make it a continuous source of income? So that, because that's the biggest challenge, you have to get the next job. And that's the biggest roadblock for you to stay on with your career. So this is something that we found through the crowdsourcing activity that we did. So the proposition that we intend to evaluate as a group is, can we leverage and nurture the gig economy for minimized financial burdens and optimum talent utilization and development as we go? Because we do see that this is possible. Even when the rebound happens after the pandemic, organizations would want to have as much flexibility with minimized financial burdens. And so we, with all this background, can we look at adopting, can we look at the model 4 here as represented here? Because the model 1 talks about when a company does something directly to deliver value to the consumers. The model 2 is where it also partners with other companies as outsourcing partners or alliance partners for building capabilities. The model 3 is when they started engaging free agents. And model 4 is with the multitude of talent platforms that have come into place. The free agents have become a global talent resource pool, and which can be collaboratively consumed across the world by all the organizations together, and greatly increasing efficiencies and effectiveness because of the value addition that these talent platforms are bringing. So as a group, in the next 1 hour or so that we get to spend on this subject, we intend to see if model 4 can be liberally adopted, and can we work towards model 4 as the future employment model globally across organizations. Now for this, we already had the questions. We thought we will split it into 3 dimensions, and therefore we could split the time that we have at hand into 3 parts. The first part we will completely focus on, if it were to be adopted, what is the organizational perspective that needs to get examined? The second part of the discussion, we will start focusing on the individual dimension and see what will it take for individuals to survive in a free agent world. And finally, we will look at a slightly more longer term perspective, that if the new generation workforce were to enter a world after education, which is completely boundaryless, then what are those traits and characteristics that will have to be built in them right through their education period? So that's precisely
something that is going on worldwide from my perspective. Especially younger people, they are not looking for a job, they are looking for work that they want to do. From what you said, from the company perspective, if I run a company, I need resources, and if I hire people, they're on my payroll, regardless where we go with the economy. And I think that's something that everybody really easily understand. If you have people who are working for you as freelancers, or they're coming from a platform or something, at the moment you don't need them anymore, or the economy is going down, you can send them home. So from the company perspective, I would say you have a lot of advantage. You have that flexibility in resources. You most of the time get people really want to show their best because they don't have a contract. So if they do good work, they want to you want to hire them again. And number three is if you as a company give them a nice home, they are willing to come back, because this is a perspective that sometimes get lost a little bit, that people can choose where they work. And if they have a bad experience in your company, they may not come back even if they are the best people in their area. So
Nandita to pick the first question, because layoffs in IT industry, and Nandita has been there in the IT for a long time now, delivering a lot of projects. So Nandita, my question to you is that, like in IT, it was layoff is it's a formal business model there. You always lay off people after your project gets over into the workbench. So you don't permanently lay people off there, but you do temporarily lay them off once your project is over. So it's a regular thing that happens. And so my question to you is that when you release people and lay them off into the resource pool, do you look at, so there is one situation where you don't have more work and you're not hiring at all, for another kind of work, then it's understandable. But when you have another kind of work and you do hire people, what stops you from thinking about reskilling the person whom you're releasing to the bench using them in the other project?
Okay. So Deepa, I think, those days are a little bit, I would say, in the past. So many of the companies don't really follow the traditional approach of, hiring for skills that they need. I think the need of the hour has kind of changed a little bit now. If you look at the IT industry, I think over the last, now I've been in the industry since the 1990s, right? So given that span of time, I've seen things evolve. But the need for flexibility has increased tremendously. So most organizations, and I would include my current organization in that, are no longer looking at reskilling people as an optional thing, where it's not one of those things that is a side business. It's kind of become like the heart of some of our strategies. The best target for that is obviously your resource pool. So there are continuous programs which you run to ensure that I have a certain demand of a certain set of technologies, I have a certain set of people, and then ensuring that we are constantly trying to bring people up and skilled in a diverse range of technologies that allows us to utilize them. So once you've invested in a resource as part of your organization, as Rolf very rightly pointed out, it's an investment, and it's a long-term investment. So not only do we look forward to people being flexible and being multi-skilled, but we also invest in making sure that they're multi-skilled enough that we can utilize them in multiple projects where different technical skills are required. And I think that's the need of the hour. I think the biggest advantage of going to a freelancer is for a company which is like an IT company, would be where you have very specific, time-bound and specialized niche needs for which you would not really want to invest as an organization. I have a need for a particular skill, maybe the latest thing is the micro front-end architecture. I really want a person who's highly skilled in this particular thing to come to do a consultative job for me for a particular project for a brief period of time. And
what are the decision considerations that you keep in mind when you do such hiring of freelancers? And is there any stopper for you?
I would say it is very driven by the need of the hour. There are certain skills, like I mentioned, which are very specialized skills, so quite often for some very specialized skills, you may or may not want to have a long-term investment. I mean, you think about your employees as having a very long-term future with the organization, and you think about their growth and things like that, right? And there are certain skills for which, you're so highly specialized that you really are looking for a consultant.
But is there a scare? Is there a decision point, a negative thought that comes to your mind when you are taking that decision?
Yes, I would say that any time that you're looking at skills which are going to be long-term skills, which is something that you want to maintain within your organization, because there's going to be an ongoing need for this range of typical example nowadays would be DevOps technologies. All projects would require people who are skilled in a variety of cloud technologies and DevOps, right? So the desire is always to hire, train, maintain, retain, and utilize across different engagements as they emerge. But the need could be different. So there could always be a spurt need, which cannot be directly, fulfilled immediately by a pool. In which case, then the option, the having freelance as an option, allows you for that flexibility to take on such kind of projects.
Perfect. I will now take the question to Hema. Hema, you've been on leadership roles, running the business as well as an HR perspective, as an HR leader perspective. What challenges do you face in integrating a contract worker or a freelancer with your permanent employees in the company?
Discussing how it's going to be skill-based education versus a degree-based education, and the new NEP almost calls it out and predominantly puts it right there in the face, right? So if you kind of extend this, while gig economy is a new term that we are using progressively and it's kind of trending across many organizations, organizations as such has been leaning on this particular workforce since long. The issue predominantly we had is that they were exploitative in nature. While you took up contracting staff, you took them for short-term assignments, you took them for short-term jobs. They were the way they were paid, the benefits that were given to them, the social security measures which are absolutely nil, caused an environment which was extremely exploitative in nature, which is why it was never an opportunity or an offer which was very exciting. I mean, if you compare that with like yesterday you and I discussed, if you look back in the European region, the social security measures are so much more profound as compared to India. And just about, I think it's all coming in perspective, because a couple of hours back, I was in this conversation with ENY where we were talking about the launch of the new wage code. Now, the new wage code is actually talking about bringing in some of those missing elements of social security. And I'm quite positive that if that goes in the direction in which it is meant to go, then gig economy will have a better platform of receptivity.
But do you face issues in, getting the permanent employees to work with some of their team members being freelancers?
Not really. So I'll say with Lennox India in perspective, in terms of work experience is just the same for all our employees. Whether you're on the permanent staff of Lennox India or you are a free agent, you're a consultant coming in to do a specific work, or you're a contractor engaged with us for a couple of years, the experience you get out of Lennox India is the same. I don't want to use the word discrimination, but it's just purely the way Indian labor laws are structured, is I'm not able to extend some of the healthcare benefits to some of these contractors who are working with me, simply because I run a risk that there is a future possible liability I run. So therefore, even if as an organization, I do have the wherewithal to offer such security benefits, the healthcare benefits, I'm unable to offer it to them given the constraints that the labor laws have created around me. So those are some issues that we are grappling with, and we think creatively around it. We see what are the other ways to do it. For example, just like many organizations offered out this COVID care insurance to their employees, we extended a similar one to our staff, but we weren't able to extend it to our third-party contractors or our consultants who are on board with us, simply because the third-party organizations which are managing their costs were not willing to take the cost. And
Anuj, you have been, working for a large organization before starting your own company, and now you're working, your organization has almost about 40 to 50 people. Now, my question to you is, does the size of the organization, when you were working with Accenture and now when you're running your own firm, which is smaller in size, did that come in your way when you were taking decisions about whether a particular job should be, given to your permanent employee, or could you hire a free agent for it? Did that?
Yes, I would say one of the major decision point that we have when we do a freelancing or we do a contractual or we do a full-time. One major thing is the contractual foundations that we have with our clients. So for example, if there is a banking client which has some kind of contracts where you can't have data to be shared between outside the ODC maybe. Okay, so this is one simple rule that we have for all the banking clients that we have. So when all those contractual boundings are there, we would not want to have any freelancer be a part of that, because it's not very practically, I would say, easy to manage the data movement between the freelancers as well. One more challenge that I've seen in the industry is the professional validations of a particular freelancer. The thing that I think that's a bigger problem is budgeting. So from budgeting, I'll give you an example. Suppose we have a particular set of piece of job that we do with a particular freelancer. So contractual job is different, and then the freelancers are different. So when you have a freelancer working on this, you have hired him for a specific period of time, and once that time is finished, if you ask for more revisions, then it directly affects your budgeting constraints as well. And then you have to manage all that within that particular freelancing time frame that the person is with you. When you have a freelancer who's giving you a commitment of less than like 30 hours a week or something like that, then what I have seen a practical challenge is you would not have to you will have to follow up a lot, and then you will have to there are missed deadlines because of course if he's giving less time with you, he's working something else as well.
First time hiring of free agent, when you don't have the enough background checks like you would have for a permanent employee, is a very interesting aspect that you brought in. And also the whole the commitment levels.
Yes.
If they are working with multiple companies, how are their ability to be able to manage all and live up to the expectations of the client is also a very interesting aspect that you've brought in.
So
there is an openness to look at free agent marketplace as well, especially when there are areas where there are no contractual obligations, where there is unpredictability of demand for those skills within the organization. So in such situations, it's a lot more, there is a lot more tendency that organizations will have to look at the free agent marketplace as well. However, having said that, organizations are also bound by a lot of restrictions in terms of labor laws, the ability to extend the same kind of benefits to a free agent as they would to a permanent employee. But what was most interesting for me was to see that, like Hema said, that, while you did want to give the same kind of benefits, and there was no integration issues in terms of the people to be able to gel and work with your permanent employees. Manoj really pointed to some of the critical aspects of decision making when you hire a freelancer, because you do not know much about the free agent. There is a lot of due diligence which happens when you recruit a permanent employee. Maybe there has to be some kind of thinking around measures to engage free agents, and that's where probably the talent platforms can come into play. So I would now request Shanu, before we wind up the organization dimension and move to the individual, with your experience of running a talent platform, Shanu, for the last 3 or 4 years, you already engaging almost 450 odd freelancers and connecting them with different companies and getting them jobs and assignments and projects. My question to you is that what has been your practical experience, like what Manoj, Hema and Nandita had to say? Did you find organizations, leaning towards some areas where there are easy jobs being given away to freelancers, and there are some areas where you find it difficult to crack? For you, it's a business that you develop when you get them to give that job to a freelancer. So what is your experience of working with companies on this, Shah?
Sure. Thank you so much, Deepa. A pleasure being a part of this panel. I'll just explain my perspective. Basically, I think freelance and solo workers have been common to sectors where remote working and tech-enabled working has been prevalent, like some of you have mentioned. So, for example, IT and IT-enabled services, they've had this even before the COVID pandemic. Yeah, so you would find that these freelance roles are already existing. Secondly, in industries with assignment-oriented working, say design and media, solo workforces are also common. Yeah. Now there are other sectors and industries that are waking up to this potential. So for SMEs, small medium enterprises, large organizations, consulting firms are now tapping into platforms like ours to seek senior business experts and subject matter experts for their business problems, or to even enter new business areas. Okay, so these are basically project based, like we have discussed, as it helps them avoid the entire hiring process that is faster and easier to source, and they have the business experts on demand. Yeah.
So Shani,
yeah.
Just one question. What Manoj said, that they don't have enough checks. Does a platform add value towards that in any way?
Yes. So my platform, for example, is a curated platform, Deepa. So we promise the client, and we actually store this data in our platform, where we speak to 2 professional references of the candidate. We would have a video call or meet the candidate in person. And unless we have assessed that there is a fit in terms of organizations that would need him, we do not empanel those experts. So actually I had 700 plus experts with me, but the rest of them have been archived and not accepted within the platform itself. So we've gone through this huge effort to ensure that there is a quality that clients are seeking and we are able to provide. So I just want to
that's the value addition that the talent platform is able to bring.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very nice. I think we had a great discussion on the organizational perspective. Let's now look at